And there was a story that came out of Detroit where a mother had inherited her dead son's student loans. Now there are different types of student loans. There are government subsidized student loans, and then there are private loans. And she had inherited her son, who had passed away of natural causes at the age of 24. She co-signed on the loan, and she had inherited his private loan debt. And she had put this petition out, hoping and asking for them to be forgiven. But it was a $10,000 debt, and this lady was in her early 60s. It was at a point where, we had talked in the past about some of the retirement planning risks and that sort of thing. But this was a life event risk that was entirely not anticipated in her mind when she co-signed that loan. And I think it goes, it jumps into a very important lesson that all of us should learn, avoid co-signing a loan.
Yeah, you're fully responsible when you do that. And I've actually seen people who are going with mortgage rates as low as they are. They're going and getting seconds, and they're essentially transferring debt, including student loan debt, into home equity loans, because in their mind they're thinking, well, we can get a better rate this way. But normally what happens is it's mom or dad or grandma or grandpa who's now essentially taking on that debt, who's co-signing that loan.
Right.
And now you're at risk on that.
You're listening to America's Financial Headquarters. This is Mark Mersman sitting alongside Mike Walters here. And Mike, a few weeks back, I had listened to another financial talk radio show, and there was a caller that had called in, and he was considering his son had accumulated about $120,000 of student loan debt. And this individual was in his early 60s. He was retired. He had some money, and he was thinking about, and he had equity in his home. And he was calling in asking, should I refinance my home in order to pay off my son's student loan and then have my son pay me back? I can get the mortgage deduction, all that good stuff. And to me, my immediate thought and the biggest concern to me was, what happens if your son dies?
Right.
You've all of a sudden assumed that risk, and now you're left holding the bag for that mortgage, and you won't have anything to pay it back.
Right. Now it's your problem.
And the advice that was given was, well, it depends, and maybe you want to consider it, if you really want to help your son out. And I'm just sitting here saying, my goodness.
Yeah. Don't give him that advice. That's terrible advice. Don't say that.
there's a reason why people need co-signers on loans. The first is that the lender doesn't think they'll repay a loan.
Right. There's too much risk.
Right. And so you rarely hear about really good co-signing experiences. And as somebody, regardless of whether it's a family member, and I understand how much you can love them, is somebody risking, especially in retirement, is somebody worth risking your financial future, in jeopardizing all that you've worked for, especially from a retirement planning standpoint. And so, co-signing debt is 100% your debt. Taking on that kind of a note, a mortgage to help your kids out, while it's noteworthy and to be commended that you're thinking about it, I really think that you need to stop and think long term.
Yeah, I would generally advise against that, and that goes along with any debt you're assuming through a co-signing process on behalf of another, but it's especially rampant these days with student loans and parents wanting to help the student or to make the interest rate lower, but it doesn't make sense in the broader financial picture.
You're exactly right. And another dangerous thing that kind of follows along the same lines of co-signing is jumping on on an account, on a bank account. A lot of parents or children will think, well, I'll jump on, in the event that mom is incapacitated, I can then have access to her account and I can do different things. There's a tremendous amount of danger in doing that. And when we come back, we are going to address the dangers of co-titling on with an account, as well as we're going to get into our to-do list for 2013 and the end of 2012.